development frameworks such as Java Spring Boot, Python Django, Node.js, and .NET allow to define a stub code of a microservice backed by a relational database and deploy it to a public cloud provider all within an hour. Today's no-code and low-code environments can probably bring it down to half an hour, replacing a significant portion of keyboard typing with point and click. However, you'd need to use the same tooling to evolve the microservice further, and there is some learning curve for proprietary system. Would like to know how to define logical data model for your microservice? Get its code in the framework of your choice, deploy it behind an AWS load balancer, and be able to transform your infrastructure further with standard DevOps tools like Ansible, Terraform, and CloudFormation, and all within 15 minutes. I bet you do. Hello, my name is Denis Havelov. I'm product owner of the Node web system powering the noteinweb.com internet service. Noteinweb.com is your Swiss Army knife for managing various types of contents of internet, zooming your workloads to public cloud providers. It allows to start developing your concept small as a bunch of interconnected nodes, evolving to whatever solution you need, supporting you from inception to the deployment and further maintenance. Out of the box, it offers components for diagrams, schedules, chats, forms, programming notebooks, and a few more to assist utilizing cloud storage, compute, and network resources, all to mix and match in your internet desktop and mobile applications. It is currently in limited beta, but release 8 is coming up soon with great new features and looks. So go ahead and sign up at https://noteinweb.com to start using NodeWeb after account activation from our side. How NodeWeb supports concept of a solution blueprint, introduced by the previous blog post on noteinweb.com. The setting is introduced in the blog article accompanying this video. Let's take a look at it. So point of view is of a solution architect on a requirement solicitation session in a fictitious company called NextHub, inspired by a true case of migration from monolith to microservice architecture by Uber. NextHub runs its fleet of citizen taxis matched to passengers in need of a taxi by a mobile app and backed by an on-premises only application. Recent spike in demand caused severe scalability issues with NextHub platforms, so they would like to re-engineer and move their business to AWS. Existing application covers a dozen of capabilities that we'd map to microservices in the presented series of blog posts. In this video, I would show how we start developing the solution blueprint by defining an outline of the trips microservice backed by a JPA data source connected to an in-memory, for now, database via JDBC and JSON REST API. We define just enough details to get the microservice stub up and running, reachable from the internet for mobile users, which show other and deployment patterns and possibilities in subsequent videos as mentioned in the accompanying article. I'm going to use a prepared blank Git repository with specified URL. Let me show it to you. Here, you see there are no other branches available. Focus is on the blueprint concept and Node Web Platform as a Service DSL, so we'd keep it simple for now and use curl to submit the blueprint for processing. I'd start typing in the meanwhile. Context first. That would receive data for multiple cloud accounts to be deployed. Then we make an indent and we define a cloud account. And this is going to be the cloud account that I already have configured in my environment. Deploy it using Ansible. And the type is going to be AWS. It's going to be running in AWS public cloud. So we are going to do another indent and define that as well. It's going to be called something like NextHub container services. And finally, we are going to define our microservice. So let's start by trying it as a container to run on AWS ECS. So it's going to be container service. We specify its name, trips. We specify AWS ECR registry URI, and so forth. And I'm not going to type further. I would rather just show you how does the final blueprint look like, because we are going to finish defining the container service, and basically that would be the entire blueprint for the scope of this video, just to illustrate the concept of a blueprint with Node Web platform as a service. Let me quickly walk through the rest of the blueprint definition. So as I mentioned, we specify the image repository in AWS ECR to contain the images. We specify the name of the cluster where our service should run it, and this is the one that we defined previously, Node Web Demos ECS cluster. We tell it that it should register it with the load balancer, and it should register it in the target group specified as such. We tell the blueprint and Node Web Platform as a Service DSL that it use a GitLab repository that I mentioned you just beforehand. And here we also specify the branch where it should be present. Finally, we define the name of the microservice template to use. So hello world.ru is a Spring Boot microservice template. Finally, we go ahead and define the logical data model, and it consists in our case out of 2 data models with only a handful of fields, but in reality, and in the next video we'll show it, it can be dozens of entities with hundreds of fields each. So, having defined our blueprint as on the screen, we can now send it off to processing. You see, it's just a small node that you can develop in your notepad or whatever you're comfortable with, and we would show you in the next videos that Node Web is very well suited to doing such kind of development as well. So I send it off for process. In the meantime, we already start getting resources provisioned. You see, it's been this launch configuration has been set up just now. Here are target groups, which have been also probably set up, and the load balancer. So once the service completes its processing, it would dump all of the logs, which would be represented as more meaningful insights on the Node Web UI. See, the Node Web, the target groups have already been provisioned along with the load balancer. By this time, I can be sure that my Git repository has already been populated. As you see, now there is a branch that I've defined in my blueprint. Let's go ahead and switch to it. Has produced a source code for a typical architecture of a Spring Boot microservice. We have entities, we have repositories, we have controllers, and we have business services. All this is operational at the first moment right after generation. So we also have the scripts to further maintain and deploy our application, our microservice. And these scripts, everything that's needed for this is located in directory scripts. You have Ansible, playbook, you have Docker file, and you also have some metadata that Node Web Platform as a Service uses internally. Since we've specified deployment per Ansible, we get an Ansible playbook that I just showed to you. But we could also choose to produce alternatively CloudFormation or Terraform scripts. Curious if our AWS resources are available already, let's take a look at it in the AWS console. So let's get to load balancer. And we are going to call it with curl. Let's get the URL first because it gets provisioned every time. So that's our DNS name. Container service has been provisioned, deployed, registered with target group, and target group is registered with load balancer. As you see, its status is healthy. And yeah, there is already something listening to the address of the load balancer as specified in console. It's here. Okay, and we can also use curl to query it. You see, that's response from our service that we just deployed. And I think we can also submit a new entry. Here. And there we go. I typed a wrong URL. That should be like this. Here. API version 1 Web PaaS DSL demo spring tricks. There we go. So let's query again if our service has accepted this new trip record and stored it. Yeah. Here, you see, that's the data that we've just submitted. So basically, you see how Node Web PaaS DSL service can help you get started real quick. And later on, we'll show you how to deploy services to Kubernetes, how to deploy Lambdas, and how to use different languages to implement such. We'd also demo TypeScript. We'd also demo Python Django. And yeah, there will be a lot more to show. But the most important is that you can use all of this after your registration, after our go live of noteandweb.com. So, by the way, you can congratulate me on my recent successful AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional certification. That's also to a large extent due to Node Web PaaS DSL service development. Stay tuned to see how to augment our next two microservice landscape blueprint with an AWS RDS MySQL instance and trips domain tables definitions. Not the few tables, but dozen tables, dozen columns. how to set up AWS Route 53 domain hosting, find a completely serverless solution, and much more. Don't forget to hit subscribe button and the bell to get notification on new channel videos. Bye bye.